All right, we're on. Welcome, everybody. We've got about an hour until the CNN healthcare debate happens, and I want to sort of preview what we might see, explain what the relevant topics of discussion might be, explain to you, warn you about the red herrings and straw men that you are likely to hear, and also take your questions, talk to you about a few things coming up on the show, etc. So I'll wait just a couple of minutes for people to connect. A lot of different things going on. We do have had it for a couple of weeks. We have donors who contribute via Super Chat or through the Streamlabs link in the video description. Your name and donation will come up here, and when you make a donation, a cool animation will play right around here. We'll have to wait until that actually happens to see it. You can use Super Chat to send in your questions. You can use streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show to send in your questions. So the questions can be about the healthcare debate that we are going to see on CNN in an hour, or they can really be about anything else if you want. I'm glad to answer all questions and respond to all comments. If this is your first live stream, I will tell you that we are live. That's sort of the point of it. Today in particular, we are live because in an hour, the CNN healthcare debate about Trump Care 3.0 happens, and I'll tell you who the debaters will be, and we will talk about what we might expect to see very, very soon. Thanks to Kaveh Arbab, who has just made a contribution. There is the Super Mario animation. Love that. Number two, you can use Super Chat to communicate questions and comments. That's the $ at the bottom of the chat window, but you can also use streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show. The animation will play. Your name will show up here no matter which of the two you do. But when you use Super Chat, we will skip the 30% contribution. 30% deduction that YouTube takes from Super Chat. So that's something to consider. And number three, any new members and patrons who make a contribution or sign up during the live stream will get a shout out and a thank you from me live on the stream. I will sing your praises, and it's all going to be just absolutely fantastic. We are at 1,933 patrons right now. I am targeting 2,000, but I will make the following proposal to you. If during the live stream we can get to 1,950 patrons, even if it's just $17 pledges, I will create and announce for you a 55% membership discount code. Okay, we currently don't have one. We have a 40% discount code off of membership, which is I voted 17. But if we get to 1,950 patrons, I will make a new coupon code. Maybe it'll be related to Bernie and Medicare for All or something like that, since that is relevant to what we're talking about today. But again, the target is 1,950 patrons. Any contribution amount gets us closer. Patreon.com/David Pakman Show. And lastly, please don't troll the chat, okay? Obvious trolling and hate will get you banned. Moderator Lauren is getting in on the action. We have, I'm not sure which other moderators we have today, but they are there, and just don't do it, okay? Just don't do it. It's not funny, and it is not fun. So let's talk about what we can expect to see in this debate. If you haven't heard about this debate, I should actually backtrack. If you haven't even heard about what's going on with healthcare, Trump Care 1.0 was proposed and failed to pass. Trump Care 2.0 was proposed and failed to pass. And whether we call these Republic Care, the Affordable Care, the American Health Care Act, or Trump Care, doesn't really matter to me, but for tonight we'll call them Trump Care. And we now have Trump Care 3.0 proposed. This is known as the Graham-Cassidy bill. This one is even more depraved, I would argue, than Trump Care 1.0 and 2.0. It would repeal basically all aspects of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, which has no shortage of flaws, as most of you know, and I've outlined for many, many years. But it would do more than just that by basically allowing for-profit insurance companies to price gouge people with pre-existing conditions, people who get sick after purchasing insurance, which sort of defeats the entire purpose of what insurance even is. And there are a couple of different estimates, but not yet from the CBO, but there is every indication that 30 to 32 million people will end up uninsured over the next 10 years, over the 10 years after the implementation of Trump Care 3.0, if it does happen. Now, the debate tonight will be the two senators after whom the bill is named, Lindsey Graham and Senator, is it Bill Cassidy? I forget his first name. Graham and Cassidy. They will be arguing in favor of their bill. And Senators Bernie Sanders and Amy Klobuchar will be arguing, debating against the bill. Now, Bernie Sanders is in a very interesting position for this debate because not only is he opposed conceptually to what the Graham-Cassidy bill, Trump Care 3.0, proposes, but Bernie Sanders has his own bill, which he has put out there, the Medicare for All 2017 proposal, I believe is what it's called, which, I mean, to call it the complete opposite, I don't know. It is drastically different than Trump Care 3.0. It proposes getting us out of this for-profit, employer-connected health insurance sort of paradigm that we find ourselves in. And I think it will be interesting to have Bernie Sanders there. I think it'll also be interesting to have Amy Klobuchar participate, just because she, I think, is a great in these sorts of formats, and I think that she will be very interesting to watch. And again, that's at 9 p.m. Eastern, currently 8:05 p.m. Eastern on September 25th. If you are not watching live, that's when the stream is happening. So I think that the debate is actually kind of irrelevant. I think it'll make for interesting TV. I'm looking forward to watching it. I think the most interesting thing we will see in the debate is what type of spin is used by Graham-Cassidy to deflect from the undeniable empirical realities that this type of bill, it's not even about this particular bill, although it happens to be right now because that's what's on the table. But this type of bill cannot possibly reduce cost while increasing access and improving care. It just can't happen. It's not how the numbers work, and I've talked about this before and we'll outline it again. When you say, let's increase the ability of for-profit insurance companies to make more profit, that's either going to worsen quality or access, or increase cost, or both. It's just the simple math of it. And Gerald Friedman from my alma mater, the University of Massachusetts, has done some really good work outlining not only the costs of Medicare for All or single payer, but also the savings. And it's very easy to just talk about the costs of Medicare for All without considering that the savings would exceed the costs. When we talk here about the net impact of something like the Graham-Cassidy bill, they like to talk about how it will, for some people, maybe reduce cost or increase choice, without talking about all of the ways in which it would increase costs, decrease choice, and decrease care. So in that sense, we don't need this debate. If you have been following how health insurance has developed in the United States, if you understand sort of the basic tenets of how profit modifies the relationship between the insured and the insurers, if you have read, for example, former Cigna executive Wendell Potter's book Deadly Spin, and you understand how we even got this type of system to begin with, you don't need this debate to know exactly what's going to happen if Graham-Cassidy passes, but I still think it will be interesting to see how they try to defend it, okay? Now, I'm going to get into some of the specific sort of bullet points and talking points that you should watch out for if you're going to be watching the debate, because there are only certain arguments that you can make to try to hide the horrible reality of a bill like Graham-Cassidy, and I'm going to tell you about what some of those are. But before doing that, I mentioned Bernie Sanders participating is interesting because he is not just a random opposing senator. He is the senator that has proposed a totally different way of looking at healthcare. He has proposed the Medicare for All 2017 bill, and it really comes down to a difference in philosophy, right? If you believe that healthcare is a product to be bought and sold on the market, the open market, like a new car, and that not being able to afford care is just like not being able to afford a new car. You either take public transportation, or you get a cheaper car, or you borrow a car, or you ask someone for a ride because it's just a market. It's the automobile market. If you believe that, then it actually does make sense that you would propose something like Graham-Cassidy. Now, any even superficial economic analysis would immediately tell you, well, it doesn't make sense for healthcare to be bought and sold as if it were a normal good or service subject to neoclassical economics curves of supply and demand. The demand curve and the elasticity or lack thereof of healthcare as a product or service is nothing like that for luxury sedans or high-end tasting menu restaurants or whatever else, right? It is very different. It is a drastically different type of demand curve. And as such, any suggestion that the market should be more involved in the relationship between the insured and the insurers is fundamentally flawed at the base level. If you believe that the government has a responsibility to provide some basic level of care to everybody regardless of ability to pay, even if you don't believe that morally, if you understand that uninsured people is actually bad policy and it's bad for everybody, it's bad when people don't have insurance and use the emergency room as primary care, and you still end up paying for it, right? Because the hospitals have to account for the fact that uninsured individuals are going to come in and not pay, so they have to raise their prices so that they can raise the average amount of money that they end up getting, not what they bill, but what they end up getting from each service or procedure that they provide. And as a result, insurance companies need to adjust premiums upward for the exact same reason. So you're not only, the moral question is an interesting question, but I actually think that if we're talking to right-wingers, it's not the best sort of type of argument to make. It's better to make the argument that you're going to pay for it either way, and why not pay for it up front and have more predictable costs than say, well, you know, we people might come in, people might use the emergency room, they might not, we don't really know. So fundamentally, we're talking about two different philosophies. Now, what can we expect to hear in this debate? A couple different things. Number one, be particularly attentive to the use of words by Graham or Cassidy like necessarily and possibly. Mark, what's his last name? I forget his last name, but a White House policy director or something along those lines was interviewed by Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, Sunday. And we talked about this on the regular broadcast program today. And Chris Wallace actually did a pretty good job of pinning him down as to what will be the impact on people with pre-existing conditions. And there's, of course, no way to deny that many people with pre-existing conditions, if Graham Cassidy were to pass, would end up paying more. And there was this amazing moment where Mark, whatever his name was, I forget, Mark Burton, I don't remember his last name, where he said, you won't necessarily pay more. You won't necessarily pay more if you have a pre-existing condition under Graham Cassidy. That's an admission that people, many people, will pay more. You have to pay attention to the use of weasel words like necessarily. It will possibly lower premiums for millions of Americans. Possibly. It will possibly lower premiums. It will increase premiums for millions of Americans, but it's possible that it will lower premiums for millions of Americans. These are the types of weasel words that you have to pay very close attention to. And this is when they want to maintain some plausible deniability. So later when premiums go up or people with pre-existing conditions get price gouged, they can say, we said up front, this had the possibility of saving people money. It turns out it cost people more money on the average. Now, some of these individuals that are trying to defend this policy, they'll just lie. Okay, so this guy on Fox News Sunday was at least picking his words carefully, so later you couldn't say he was lying. He said, you won't necessarily be screwed if you have pre-existing condition. All right, he said it wasn't necessary, but it's possible or even likely. It's possible that you might save money. It's also possible that you might not. And the other thing you really need to pay attention to, particularly when, I think it's both a blessing and a curse that Bernie Sanders is going to be there. Excellent debater and someone who actually has the knowledge of what an alternative system would look like, because he has worked for a long time on what ultimately became his Medicare for All bill of 2017. Having him there is great because he's a great debater on this issue, but it also opens up Graham and Cassidy to respond to Bernie Sanders with straw men or red herrings. Bernie Sanders might make a great argument as to why Graham Cassidy is a bad idea. And then Graham Cassidy can say, Senator Sanders has proposed a government takeover, a total government takeover of healthcare. And what's important to think about when you hear that is anytime they allege that government will control or take over X and that's bad, they are suggesting the alternative, which is total business control of whatever X is, and implying that we are better off if the profit motive, if business is motivated by the profit, by possible profit, are making decisions. And when we look at other countries at our level of development, the data is very clear. People are better off when there is not this for-profit employer-connected healthcare system, and you are eliminating that profit motive. Now, for-profit insurance companies are much better off under the type of system we have. When people profit in healthcare, and this is like the sick, basic issue. When you say, here's the cost of this procedure, including reasonable salaries for the people that are working, the fixed costs of the healthcare facilities, here's the cost. When you add profit above the cost, what is happening? What does that profit create? It either makes it more expensive for the user of healthcare, or if you keep the cost the same in order to add profit, you reduce the cost either by trying to make spending less on facilities, having understaffed facilities, all factors that make the care worse quality. This is it, right? There's no other way that works, and this is why what people are missing is you can't take Obamacare. If this is Obamacare, and you can put Obamacare wherever you see it on the political spectrum. I think Obamacare is quite right-wing. Obamacare mandates tens of millions of customers buy for-profit health insurance or pay a fine, right? It is a boon to the for-profit insurance industry. So Obamacare is not left-wing. It is actually right-wing. And it was conceived in the 90s by a right-wing think tank. Place Obamacare on the political spectrum wherever you like. Allowing for-profit companies to make more money by having more freedom to price services however they want, price insurance however they want, that's a move to the right. And when you do that, you price some people out and you increase cost for many people. And of course, what we can expect to hear from Graham or Cassidy is, well, we're going to make up for the elimination of those Obamacare subsidies. I feel like Trump doing this. You're going to make up for those Obamacare subsidy removals by adding block grants. But of course, the block grants will be for far smaller amounts than the Obamacare subsidies. This is according to Graham and Cassidy, according to the bill. And states, if they don't want to abide by some of the restrictions that Graham Cassidy will attempt to put in, they can get a waiver, right? They can get a waiver out altogether. And that's just it. There's effectively no other way around it. That is the way that it is going to work. Okay, so these are some of the things that I would encourage you to sort of keep in mind as you're watching the debate. And I will be watching it, and we will probably maybe we'll have reaction tomorrow, maybe we won't. It sort of depends. I mean, it looks like this bill is on its way to failure. And if that's the case, then I don't know how much we'll really have to talk about it tomorrow. Okay, let me talk about, there's a bunch of super chats that have been coming in, and I do want to talk about those. Kaveh Arbab has sent a $2 super chat by using the $sign at the bottom of the chat window. How badly will Bernie annihilate the dotards? I'm not into this whole dotard thing. And, you know, I understand that dotard is a new word for a lot of people. It was a new word to me. But the whole idea of tard, I mean, it's still an allusion to calling someone retarded. And I think we've got many other ways that we can criticize someone. So I'm skipping the whole dotard thing. Jacob Ball has sent a $5 super chat. Kurdistan is having an open referendum. Spain is arresting political dissidents advocating for democracy. Did I miss something? Well, there's many other news stories, Jacob, but yes, those things are happening. Those things are happening, and we've talked about the Kurdistan referendum. We did get a call, I think we got a call last week about the Catalonian sort of movement for independence. So I think that we will talk about that again when there's more news. Okay, Bailey Marshall has sent a $5 super chat. Do you think Netanyahu's lobbying to Trump about gutting the Iran deal is dangerous? And what do you think about Abbas getting Hamas to form a unity government? Yeah, so a couple things. I actually have notes Let me see if I can pull them up, just because I had already done some thinking about this. Okay, so, I mean, listen, it's been no secret for a long time that I am no fan of Benjamin Netanyahu. I won't redo my entire rant about Benjamin Netanyahu, but I've not been a fan of him for a long time. I think he is not going to be an arbiter to peace, period. I think that the danger of Netanyahu lobbying Trump on anything is that Netanyahu is a very smart guy, very, very smart guy. And Donald Trump, as we know, is increasingly and significantly easy to influence. And Netanyahu can probably get Trump to do just about anything he wants. Putin probably can as well. So I think that Netanyahu lobbying Trump about gutting the Iran deal is dangerous. That doesn't mean that there aren't problems with the Iran deal. I've talked about them. We've been talking about the Iran deal for a very long time. Abbas getting Hamas to form a unity government. So the news is that Hamas has agreed to some steps towards a Palestinian unity government. And, I've talked about this for a long time, and there is not going to be any reasonable peace agreement in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict while Hamas is sort of in charge of or managing or speaking for Gaza and the Palestinian people that are in Gaza. So I think any moves, when you think about all of the different factions there, any move to try to moderate who is going to be at the negotiating table on the Palestinian side, I think that that's a really good thing. Now, Mahmoud Abbas, there are things we can say about him where we can say, hey, better than Hamas, and there's no doubt about that. I completely agree with that. But it's no miraculous path. Abbas negotiating for all of the Palestinian territories is no secure path to productive negotiations, in the same way that Benjamin Netanyahu is by no means a path to that as well. It's not clear that either side really benefits from peace, at least in terms of those doing the negotiating. So we've been dealing with this issue, and we're gonna continue dealing with it. Bailey Marshall has sent a $2 super chat. What do you think about Bernie's FP interview? I have not seen it. Bernie Sanders FP interview. I wonder what there was in particular about it, but I've not seen it. Or by the way, what is FP? Is FP foreign policy? Was he interviewed by Foreign Policy, or was he interviewed about foreign policy? I've not seen it, but I will look it up. Blaze the Commie has sent a $5 super chat with no question or comment. Thanks very much. Showtime 8D7 has sent a $5 super chat. Fresh haircut, David. Do you have a barber you religiously visit, or do you play Russian roulette at Great Clips? I play Russian roulette, but not at Great Clips. I've never been to Great Clips, but I do tend to just try different people to cut my hair, and it's always more or less okay. Never great. I end up sort of having to wait for it to grow out. But hey, that's where we are. What can you do? Matthew Fisher has sent a $5 super chat. When will Chuck and Nancy back Medicare for All? It seems like the Republicans kind of back it as the only alternative to the Affordable Care Act. I don't know what Republicans are backing Medicare for All. I haven't seen that. I don't know that Chuck and Nancy will back Medicare for All, because they are the types of Democrats that tend to be very similar to Republicans on many issues. Okay, I don't know how else I can say it, and I don't know that Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi are going to be backing Medicare for All anytime soon. Not only can you contribute through Super Chat, you can contribute through streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show. Purple Haze, who you see listed here at the top, Purple Haze 09, has made a $5 contribution. And as you can see, the only difference between Super Chat $5 contributions and Streamlabs $5 contributions is that you see the number of cents when you donate $5 through Streamlabs at streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show. Purple Haze 09 saying, since Jimmy Kimmel has come into the political spotlight, I've been thinking a lot about comedic political commentators. Have we reached the point where comedians like Colbert, Noah Oliver, etc. are becoming more accurate than the mainstream media? I think on accuracy, we should go into all assertions made by anybody commenting on politics with healthy skepticism and do the exact same type of due diligence that we would do no matter what comments are being made by anybody, whether it is Bernie Sanders or Charles Krauthammer or Jimmy Kimmel. Let's fact check. Let's do everything that be a good student of media literacy and critical thinking would do. That being said, I think the more interesting discussion around Jimmy Kimmel is, and Trevor Noah, I have not, I think that since Trevor Noah has taken off, oh, I'm sorry, I said Noah Oliver. Now I'm realizing that the question was Stephen Colbert, Trevor Noah, and John Oliver. I think I've only seen about 5 minutes of Trevor Noah ever since he took over for Jon Stewart, so I can't speak too much about it. But the point I want to make is the following. Anybody saying that comedians shouldn't do politics, says who? What does that mean, they shouldn't do politics? Athletes shouldn't do politics? Anyone is free and should be encouraged to use the platform they have however they decide to use it. Now, you might say, well, the comedian might risk angering his audience and putting people off or something like that. That's the free market that the right claims to support. It's a free market of ideas. And if enough people say, I don't like it when Jimmy Kimmel does politics, I don't like it when athletes do politics by kneeling or whatever else it is that they do, stop watching them, stop buying the tickets, whatever. And that is the free market. That is literally the free market of ideas, right? If you don't like the ideas, you can stop buying the tickets. You can stop watching Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. And the idea that based on your role, you're not supposed to do politics, I don't agree with. Now, the exception would be if there is a particular job you've been hired for where you are supposed to be apolitical, right? So an example would be, I don't know. There's different examples and people would disagree, but I guess I would lean in the direction of if you are hired to be a I'm actually even struggling because I find it's okay to do politics. I think that if you are hired by a TV station to broadcast sports and they say specifically, we're hiring you to broadcast sports, and you decide to start talking about politics, particularly sort of in a one-sided way, then your employer can say, well, that's not what we hired you for. Now, I still wouldn't have a problem with it in the sense that if I don't like the commentary, if I don't like how Al Michaels during a Patriots game back during the 2004 election said the refs flip-flopped on the call and we're certainly in the right state for that, referring, of course, to the flip-flopper ad hominem that was created around John Kerry at the time. If I don't like it, I don't have to watch Al Michaels, and I don't watch Al Michaels. I don't like Al Michaels. But I really don't have a problem with people interjecting politics. Everything is political, and I think it is a good thing to try to use whatever platform you have in the way you believe you will be most impactful. Your employer might not like it, your audience might not like it, your clients might not like it, but I don't have a problem with that. Brian Dang has sent a $2 super chat saying, dotard is pronounced dotard, not like retard. Okay, that's fine. I'm just not participating in the entire dotard thing, but by all means, have at it. For those who are interested in that, it doesn't bother me, but I just find myself not caring about it. There's so much other stuff to discuss. Okay, let's do some thank yous. As I mentioned, I am trying to reduce the amount of time I spend talking about membership and Patreon during the live streams, but I do want to talk about it a little because, to be perfectly honest, we are in sort of a funding crunch at the David Pakman Show, and we're trying to replace the money that we've lost as a result of the YouTube advertiser boycott. This is our YouTube ad revenue. We started the year really strong, and it's done. YouTube is basically done as a revenue source, so we're trying to replace that revenue in other ways. Membership is one of the ways that we do that. It's our primary source of revenue. Members get access to the world-famous bonus show. They get access to the commercial-free broadcast program. So instead of watching 4 to 6 minute clips on YouTube, you get the entire 1 hour show with no commercials every day on YouTube. Really, really great thing. You can sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. We do have a 40% discount coupon code. And a couple people who have signed up just while we've been chatting here: Katia McLeod, Howard Gruber, Adam Rodriguez, and Katie Hickman. All of whom have signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Genuinely, thank you. Thank you. It has been ever since March 31st when the YouTube ad boycott problem started. March 31st is sort of day zero in this world. It has been really, really tough. It has been really, really tough. And you would imagine that having our YouTube issues covered in the New York Times by Amanda Hess would have really brought a lot of attention towards the issues and maybe a lot of new contributors. You would have thought that having coverage in Wired by Davey Alba, great article by Davey Alba about what's going on with the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. But the truth is, it didn't. Neither of those articles brought in a huge influx of contributors to what we're doing. So we've got our couple methods. We've got membership. That's number one. We've got Patreon, patreon.com/David Pakman Show. We used to not have patron benefits at patreon.com/David Pakman Show, but enough people said, David, I'd be much more likely to contribute if there were some perks to Patreon contribution. So we now have them, right? At the $2 a month level, you get the members-only, supporter-only monthly newsletter. At the $5 a month level, you get the newsletter and access to the world-famous bonus show that we do every day. And at the $10 level on Patreon, you get all of the prior benefits as well as access to the full commercial-free show every single day. So even if you can only throw in $1 or $2, please don't think that because you can only throw that much in, it's not worth it. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Only about 1 to 1.5% of our total audience contributes anything, right? And I'm okay with that because we do the show as a public service. We distribute the show at our expense to 200 radio and TV stations because I think it's important to get those stations the program so that they can broadcast it. We do that at our expense. But if we could go from 1 to 1.5% of our audience supporting us to 3% of our audience supporting us, we never have to worry about this funding issue. I mean, it's just it. I don't have to talk about membership. I don't have to talk about Patreon. That's how small the level of support is. And that's why even just getting to 3% support, and thank you, Christina, for your contribution, just getting to 3% of our audience supporting us would be absolutely, absolutely huge. So please get those contributions in, and I will do more thank yous as we go here. And I will deal with a couple of these other super chats and questions, etc. that we have. Let me get to Christina. Okay, Christina sent a $1 Streamlabs contribution at streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show, saying, Streamlabs is giving me a hard time tonight, seeing if I can get it to work. Well, you did, Christina. It worked beautifully. It worked beautifully. Ian D has sent a $2 super chat. Where is Ian's? There it is. Ian D donated $2 through super chat, asking, will the ad boycott impact on political discussion? I think it will. So for people, actually, I kind of have horrible news about the YouTube ad boycott. The YouTube ad boycott started on March 31st, and what happened was that some Coca-Cola and other big advertisers had ads that appeared on YouTube before, obviously racist content. So there was sort of panic at YouTube, and YouTube turned on a super aggressive ad filtering algorithm. And what that did was it turned off ads from anything that was even remotely controversial. And the algorithm couldn't distinguish between a video by white supremacists advocating for white supremacy and me doing a video explaining why white supremacy is bogus, right? Neither one was getting ads. Major problem. Since that algorithm has started to improve. So we have been getting more ads, but we've been getting low quality ads. And we've also been getting ads that don't align nearly as well with the points of view of our program. And this has always been the case. Like, there's always been the sporadic NRA ad on our videos, but now from the screenshots people are sending me, the ads are just totally out of whack with the subject matter of our program, the ideology of the program. We now are dealing with ad boycott level 2, and it's not demonetization, it's limitation, okay? And other YouTubers might know about this. Before last month, basically, or 2 months ago, there were two statuses for videos on YouTube. You either had monetization on or you had monetization off, right? Monetization off means the video is not appropriate for YouTube advertisers and a general YouTube audience. No ads are running. Ads on means that ads are running. There is a new status, an intermediate status called limited status. Limited status means that the video is not strictly speaking unmonetizable, but that fewer ads may run. And the really sort of pernicious thing that's going on is that a huge portion of our and many other YouTubers' libraries have been limited. And the limited thing is much more dangerous for two reasons. Number one, the videos are being limited in waves. So we went through every single video in our library that had been marked as limited about a month ago, and we appealed every single one of those limitations, asking for a manual review. Now, the manual review will only happen, I believe it's when the video generates by itself 1,000 views a week. Now, a lot of these videos are older, right? So they're not generating 1,000 views a week, or I don't remember the exact amount. But in total, we're talking about thousands of videos. In total, they are generating lots of views every single week, and those are effectively making no money now. We thought that that was an initial review of our entire library. We reviewed, we asked for a review, and that's done. We went back and looked last week, and a whole new series of older videos have been flagged for limited ads. So once again, we have to devote staff time to asking for every single one of those videos to be reviewed, because a lot of them are really innocuous, like not at all controversial, no adult content, no gore, no swearing, nothing. And we're running into this issue once again. So I believe that the ad boycott will impact political discussions, because I'm trying not to do this. I am making every effort not to change the subject matter of the program based on anticipating whether it will run ads or not. Because if I was just concerned with monetizing YouTube as much as possible, I wouldn't do anything controversial. I wouldn't talk about natural disasters. Those might be limited in ads. I wouldn't talk about North Korea. Wouldn't talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Wouldn't talk about Venezuela. Wouldn't talk about war, ISIS, all this stuff, because none of that stuff is going to make barely any money on YouTube. I don't want to do that, right? I want to talk about the issues that I want to talk about. But there are going to be people who will say, I'll just pick topics that will be fully monetized so I can make money, and that will impact the political discussion. Absolutely no doubt about it. Okay, a couple other Streamlabs contributions. You can contribute at streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show. Christina sent a $2.50 Streamlabs contribution. Have you recently purchased new shirts that you've been wearing on the show? Also, do you keep shirts at the studio or do the show in what you arrive in? Very good and specific questions. I have no new shirts. Recently, I'm going to try to get a couple new shirts, because this really weird thing happens where I rip through the elbow on a lot of my shirts, and I don't know why. It might be when every day I reach over my head to put my earpiece in, which I hear the guests through at the studio. I think I'm like putting tension on the elbow of the shirts, and I've got 5 or 6 shirts that have a hole through the elbow. You can wear them with a sweater over it, but in any case, I've got to start replacing some of them, so I need to do that soon now that it's becoming fall. I don't keep shirts at the studio. I wear to the studio the shirt I will be wearing. Thank you. Ironic Cat has sent a $2 Streamlabs contribution. Meow. What passions drive you? Also, any good news diamonds in the mire of media crap lately? There's some piecemeal good news about the steps forward that some European and Asian countries are taking on battling climate change and moving in the direction of alternative energy. I think that that's interesting. I think there are some really interesting sort of shared ownerships, I might call them socialistic companies that are basically being run as co-ops. My former UMass economics professor, economist Richard Wolff, has been writing and speaking about some of these on his podcast. Yeah, I think there's some good news. As far as what passions drive me, really you can see the passions on the show, right? Equality, fairness, democracy, media literacy, and I'm teaching at Boston College, which I'm doing now as a part-time adjunct professor, has really sort of illuminated to me that I really am interested in teaching media literacy, critical thinking, and epistemology, and sort of how to look at media and understand what is being said, and oftentimes, just as importantly, what is not being said. And so that I think is definitely another passion of mine. Claudius Augustus has sent a $2 Streamlabs contribution. Would you say a little more on your assessment of the German general election? Of the German election result as it affects Brexit? Tomorrow. I'm still forming my perspective on the Germany election results. Evan C. has sent a $1.50 streamlabs.com/the David Pakman Show contribution. What's your opinion on e-democracy, blockchain democracy, liquid democracy, etc.? I'm a big fan myself, and I think it's a cause that progressives should be fighting for in the future to fight corruption and give more people a say. What are your thoughts? Liquid democracy, I don't know much about. Let's see what happens if I Google that. Liquid democracy, also known as delegative democracy, is a form of democratic control whereby an electorate vests voting power in delegates rather than in representatives. The term is a generic description of either already existing or proposed popular control apparatuses. Interesting. I want to research more before I comment on that. I've been reading quite a bit about blockchain democracy, and I think that there is definitely something very, very interesting there. I've also read some analyses suggesting that the blockchain fervor that has been visible lately may be overblown, but we're sort of thinking about the blockchain element as maybe worthy of a long form piece, and that comes both with the sort of cryptocurrency side and other more political or uses for democracy of blockchain. And by e-democracy, I don't know what you mean. I don't know exactly. It's a combination, digital democracy or internet democracy incorporates 21st century information and communications technology to promote democracy. I mean, in its component parts, I've been a major advocate of that for a long time. I'm actually interested in some of these terms. I didn't know that these have been sort of discreetly defined as movements or ideologies. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to look into that more. Christina has sent a $2.50 super chat. Does the show provide health care to those who work on the show? What will happen to you and Pat if Obamacare is repealed? You have to take care of Pat if things go wrong with a capital W. So the Pat's under 26. So right now, really the only person who's in a situation right now of needing care on the open market is me, because I'm over 26. And Massachusetts has actually had a system that goes above and beyond the requirements of Obamacare. For some time, it sort of is colloquially called Romneycare. So hopefully a repeal of Obamacare wouldn't have a huge impact in Massachusetts, although it would definitely impact some of the funding that's received. And I just buy insurance through one of those marketplaces. I am buying for-profit insurance, as are most or many people in my situation. Okay, let's jump over to, a couple different things. Number one, it's kind of a sad night on Patreon, but I do have one new patron to thank. Eric Andrew Emanuelson has pledged $5 a month. I'm really kind of getting bummed out about I'm going by what the audience has asked for, which is no telethon style Patreon fundraisers during live streams. But I'm really getting bummed out by how it's going. We've been talking here for about 45 minutes, and we only have one new Patreon contributor. And even if you can only throw in $1, I think it would really brighten the evening for everybody if we could get a few more Patreon contributions in, even if they're just $1. And of course, at $2, $5, and $10, there are really, really great member benefits. And if we get, although I'd like to be cautiously optimistic, we started the evening with 1,933 patrons. I suggested that if we got to 1,950, I would create for you a huge 55% discount code for membership. And we're only one closer. We're at 1,934. I'm just bummed out. It's just sad. But if anybody wants to jump in here, I will give you an extra good live shout out and thank you, and make up some probably untrue but really, really great sounding praise for everybody who makes those contributions. And I do have one other new member to thank as well. You can become a member at davidpakman.com/membership. The coupon code that saves you 40% is I voted 17. Linda Delgado. Linda Delgado, thank you. Thank you for becoming a member. Every single new member helps to replace the lost revenue from the YouTube advertiser boycott. So thank you very much. Okay, let's look at some of the other super chats. Garrett North has sent a $10 super chat. Really important issue. Why, in your opinion, has Trump said barely anything about the crisis in Puerto Rico? Simple answer, he doesn't know Puerto Rico is part of the United States, right? That would be the sort of base answer that my mind immediately goes to. Let's assume for a second he does think that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. Clearly his priorities are to tweet about football players kneeling and to talk about repealing the Affordable Care Act. It's just not his priorities. Those are not his priorities. And I don't know that we even have to go further. It's just the guy doesn't care. He doesn't care. Brian Rasmussen has sent a $5 super chat. David, do you have any hope that Citizens United will ever be overturned? I mean, listen, I would like the effect of Citizens United to be overturned. Excuse me. Thirsty, feeling like Marco Rubio here tonight. I would love Citizens United to be overturned. I don't know if the most direct path is overturning Citizens United specifically to changing the sort of campaign finance system, or maybe looking at restructuring other aspects of campaign finance that don't require the repeal. And again, I'm thinking sort of pragmatically. But yes, I do have hope that Citizens United will be overturned. Dana Alexander has sent a $5 super chat. My dad is Hispanic and a big Trump supporter, so I'm curious how you debate people close to you who have Fox News, LOL, and I'll support you on Patreon. Thank you, Dana. Look forward to welcoming you as a new patron. I am increasingly thinking, it's different when it's people close to you and people not close to you, but I think it is more or less futile to try to sort of like change the minds of Trumpists by beating them over the head with facts. I think it's probably better to employ a Socratic style method of questioning, inquire as to how people came to the conclusions that they have come to, ask them how that might be wrong, ask them how they would figure out if they were wrong. I think that's a better use of time, really, no matter who you're talking to. I don't know. I'm increasingly sort of going in that direction. Jacob Ball sent a $2 super chat. Do it, I guess he means telethon, David. The Patriots will understand. And following up with another $2 super chat, hashtag thirsty David. I am feeling thirsty. I went for a run earlier, and I must still be sort of dehydrated from it. Okay, so I think we have gotten caught up on super chats. Remember, there are two ways to send questions and comments. One is by using streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show. The other is by using the super chat button. That's the $ at the bottom of the chat window. And both are great options. Now, I'm seeing here, I see. They're just sort of out. Some of these donations are out of order. I gotcha. I see what's going on. Okay, so for people just now tuning in and wondering what is going on with the live debate on healthcare, the live debate starts at 9 p.m. Eastern, right? It's 8:48 p.m. Eastern, so we're doing sort of like a preview. If you go back to the beginning of the stream, you will see my long rant I was almost completely out of breath and completely flummoxed by the end of it because I spoke about 25 minutes nonstop with red herrings to watch out for, distractions to watch out for, talking points to be prepared for this debate we're going to see about Trump Care 3.0 at the top of the hour. I would be interested, if you're watching this later, if you've already seen the debate, look at the red herrings and straw men that I warned about and see whether I'm ultimately vindicated. And I mean really vindicated, not like Trump who thinks he's vindicated with Obama wiretapped me, because he's not, but actually vindicated, because I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of those. Okay, I want to interrupt for a moment with very, very good news. Apparently my being bummed out about the lack of Patreon contributions has spurred a number of contributors. Jacob Wilkins has made a pledge of $1 a month. Thank you, Jacob. You are an incredible basketball player, and I think that that's absolutely an incredible thing. I'm doing fake praise. Like, I don't really know that much about these folks, but I'm just trying to heap praise upon you. Ian Diggs, who I've never seen a better computer programmer than Ian Diggs. He has pledged $5 a month at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Who else do we have here? Jackson Sullivan. I've never met a nicer person than Jackson Sullivan. Jackson helps old ladies cross the street and holds the door for everybody. Really good person. Jackson Sullivan has made a $2 a month pledge. Dana Alexander has pledged $1 a month. And Dana, from a young age, has helped kids be entrepreneurial, and she has launched over 1,000 lemonade stands by helping kids around the world, and that's a really, really great cause. Adam Silverstein has made a pledge of $1 a month, and Adam is known within his community. Oh boy, I'm running out of ideas. Adam is known for being a really big-time supporter of independent media. And Frank Tolentino has made a $2 a month pledge as well. And Frank is just an all-around great family person. Frank is just really, really well known as being the person that his family can always count on. And it's an honor, Frank, really, to have you as a supporter. So we started the evening at 1,933 patrons. We are at 1,940. I will reiterate my offer. We've got 9 minutes left till this debate starts at the top of the hour. If we can get just 10 more patrons in the next 9 minutes, that will get us to 1,950, and I will create and release for you a 55% membership discount code. We have failed numerous times recently to achieve the number of patrons to trigger one of those discount codes. Let's do it tonight. I think we can do it. It's bumming me out that we haven't made them, but I think we're going in that direction. Okay, super chats. Marisol Losada has sent a $2 super chat. Joining the bandwagon, hashtag, I guess it's Thirsty David, it's supposed to be. Okay, Jacob Ball has sent a $2 super chat. Pakman has the greatest audience, doesn't he, folks? Not only the greatest audience, but probably the biggest audience I've ever seen for a David Pakman Show pre-healthcare debate live stream on the 25th of a month of September. Big time stuff. Okay, let's go to our Streamlabs contributions. Streamlabs.com/The David Pakman Show. Christina has sent a $1 Streamlabs question. This is a really good question. Do you have a hard time maintaining friendships and relationships with people who have vastly different views from your own? I have very few friendships with people who have drastically different political views from me. And, if we disagree on tax policy, it's pretty easy to maintain a friendship or a relationship. If we disagree on things like, gay marriage or are people poor because they want to be and because they're lazy, or are there systemic reasons why people are poor? If we disagree on that, our views on the world are so different that it's going to be really difficult to really see eye to eye on almost any issue. So I have very few relationships with people with drastically different political views. The ones that I do have are people that I've known for a really, really long time, and our relationships sort of like predate me even being involved in politics. And we basically do not talk about politics. I mean, we just don't. That's that. I mean, it's sad. It really is very, very sad. But I don't know how else to say it. It's the reality. And I know a lot of people who have contacted me, particularly in the Trump era, who say, I really can't maintain relationships with Trumpists. I just can't. And there's a great call about a woman who called into the show live who explained it's pretty bad between her, who supported Bernie, and her Trump-supporting husband, and that it's impacting their sex life as well. So a lot of drama. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Other questions to ask that have been asked or to answer. I want to share more good news with you. We have received 2 more Patreon contributions. Or one new one and one increase. Nico has increased their pledge from $2 a month to $3 a month. Thank you. And Brian Rasmussen has pledged $5 a month, and I really appreciate that from Brian. Brian is a tremendous humanitarian. Brian really cares about animal rights, and I think it's absolutely tremendous, Brian, your activism within the animal rights community. I don't know what I'm talking about. And let me just do a couple new member thank yous, because we do have a couple of new members. Gisela Ventura has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, and Matthew McMillan has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. We have, did anybody hear that? That was a very strange noise. I don't know what that was. It sounded like physical violence. I don't know if that came through on my microphone. We've got about 5 minutes left in the stream, because then it is going to be time for the healthcare debate, which is what we've been talking about and talking about a lot tonight. So if we can get 9 more patrons in the next 5 minutes, that'll get us to 1950. And then I will create and release for you a 55% discount code, a 55% membership discount code just for you. And I won't tell anybody else about it. It'll be our little secret. And I think you will all really, really enjoy that. But we do have only, at this point, 4 minutes left. We are getting very, very close to the debate. Yeah, people saying that they did hear that noise. I don't know if that was an animal or if that was a person. But it was a very strange noise. And these are external walls. So I don't know. Very bizarre. Imagine if I put up the blind and there's someone in the window. That would be horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Reminder. And thank you, Marisol, for the $1 contribution. I appreciate that. Watch for the red herrings tonight. Watch for Bernie to be attacked for his Medicare for All proposal, even though what's actually supposed to be debated tonight is Trump Care 3.0, which is a disaster. Look for ad hominems against Bernie Sanders. And also look for weasel words. I said this before and I'll say it again. If Graham or Cassidy tonight say, you won't necessarily see premiums go up under Trump Care 3.0, necessarily is the key word there. You might see a decrease in your premiums under Trump Care 3.0. That is a sign that many people are going to see an increase in their premiums. Understand the language that is going to be used if it is indeed going to be used. And I believe that we are going to see a lot of this weasel language tonight. I want to say a big thank you to Samuel Wood. Samuel is an existing patron who just edited his pledge from $2 a month to $5 a month. Thank you very much, Samuel. I appreciate that. We are still holding steady at 1,941 patrons. We started the evening at 1933. We are now at 1941. And we are still sort of standing by, still 3 minutes that we could really get to that 1950. Any one of you can make it happen. Darren Gaines has sent a $20 super chat. The super chat all-star of the night. That's the biggest single contribution that we saw tonight via super chat. Thanks very much, Darren. Darren saying only, keep up the great work. And let me take the last couple minutes to give you a quick update. I mentioned this last time. There was significant interest expressed in this. I have been teaching a class at Boston College as an adjunct professor, and I suggested it might be interesting for me to redo those lectures with the slides I use in class and do them as like 75-minute presentations on YouTube for our YouTube audience. The reaction to that has been huge. People seem to be absolutely loving, and thanks, Brian, for that contribution, the idea of doing those lectures. The thing is, 75-minute long-form pieces with slides intermixed is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. So we need to figure out the sort of finances of making that happen. I want to make it happen, but that is a lot of staff time. It is a lot of staff time in addition to producing the daily show. Jacob Ball has sent a $20.01 super chat saying, "Suck it, Darren. Shots have been fired," besting Darren Gaines as the top contributor of the evening. And clearly, people are getting very, very agitated here, and they want to be the top contributor of the evening. Thank you to everybody who has been making those contributions. And on that note, it is time for the debate. Let's all go and watch. But before I do that, was there one more contribution here from Christina? Yes. Have a good night, David. I always have a bit of a giggle while watching. Love the show. Thanks again. Thank you. And let's go watch the debate, see what happens.